Welcome to the DVERT Brief. I'm Dr. Meg McBride, Director of the Domestic Violent Extremism Research and Translation Center at CNA. This podcast series highlights new research, trends, and findings on violent extremism in America, designed for policymakers, practitioners, and anyone curious about the evolving domestic threat landscape. This AI-generated podcast delivers concise and accessible summaries of our latest work. Thanks for listening.
In today's episode, we'll be exploring key insights from our explainer on violent actors' exploitation and recruitment of young people with mental health concerns. Please note, if you are concerned that someone you know may be in need of support or intervention, reach out to a trusted community organization or leader for help. In the case of an imminent threat of harm, call 911. Okay, let's dive in.
Today's topic touches on two issues that are often discussed separately but increasingly intersect online: youth mental health and violent extremist recruitment and exploitation. And right from the start, it's important to make something clear. Having a mental health condition does not cause violent extremism.
That's exactly the right place to begin. Mental health issues don't lead to extremism. Instead, some violent actors actively look for young people who may be struggling emotionally because they see them as easier to manipulate. The issue is exploitation, not causation.
And one thing that stood out to me is that this doesn't happen in just one way. There are actually several different phenomena.
There are. The first involves online communities that promote harmful behaviors, such as eating disorders or self-harm. Violent networks have been known to target these spaces because the young people participating in them may already be experiencing emotional distress, social isolation, or low self-esteem. Some networks have even produced guidance encouraging members to target these communities. In one example, a 13-year-old joined a Discord server for people experiencing mental health issues. Over several months, a young man she met there convinced her to send sexually explicit images and engage in self-harm. Eventually, the groomer traveled across the country to continue the abuse and encourage her to attempt suicide.
That highlights a key pattern in some of the cases we're discussing today. Extremists offer vulnerable individuals sympathy and reassurance before preying on their insecurities. The second phenomenon is different because it involves communities that are intended to help people.
That's right. Many online mental health communities focus on treatment, recovery, and peer support, and participation in those communities can be positive. But violent actors may also target these spaces. In another case, a 13-year-old boy experiencing isolation and depression joined a mental health Discord community to make friends. Instead, he encountered individuals who repeatedly encouraged him to take his own life, and he died by suicide later that month.
And then there's the third phenomenon.
The third involves the deliberate recruitment of young people with mental health diagnoses, neurodivergence, or a history of traumatic experiences. Some extremist and other violent networks incorrectly stereotype these young people as being more willing to commit violent acts or more likely to give in to pressure. Those stereotypes are false, but they influence how some recruiters identify potential targets.
The report mentions the phrase weaponized autism. Can you explain what that means in this context?
Some violent networks use that and other similar ideas to both glorify and demean people with various mental health diagnoses or neurodivergence whom they perceive as easy to manipulate. For example, a family member of an individual with autism who was radicalized said it felt like that individual was a loner the extremist actors were preying on. Recruiters may also seek out young people with traumatic experiences and offer them a means of empowerment through violence. In too many cases, extremists are the only ones offering any kind of support.
Across all three of these phenomena, the common thread is exploitation.
Exactly. Whether a young person is participating in a harmful online community, seeking support in a positive online space, or living with a mental health condition or history of trauma, the key point is that violent actors may view those circumstances as opportunities for exploitation or recruitment. Recognizing that risk is an important step toward identifying warning signs and intervening early.
So for the caregivers and practitioners listening today, what kinds of warning signs should they be paying attention to?
The biggest thing is to look for changes over time rather than any single red flag. Online, that could include suddenly spending much more time on the internet, forming intense relationships with people they've only met online, joining communities that promote self-harm or eating disorders, or developing a new interest in mass violence. Offline, signs might include withdrawal from friends and family, changes in sleeping or eating habits, worsening mental health, or the emergence of new extreme beliefs. Don't assume someone is dangerous, but recognize that if they are exhibiting one or more of these behaviors, they may be vulnerable to exploitation and need support.
That seems like an important distinction. This conversation isn't about linking mental illness to violence.
Exactly. Mental health challenges do not cause violent extremism, but some violent actors exploit those challenges as part of their recruitment and grooming strategies. Understanding that difference helps shift the conversation away from false stereotypes and toward protecting vulnerable young people.
This podcast was produced with the assistance of artificial intelligence tools, but the content was based on research done by the DVERT Center, which is embedded within CNA, a nonprofit research and analysis organization dedicated to advancing the safety and security of the nation. Production of the DVERT Brief is supported by the National Institute of Justice under Award Number 15, PNIJ 24GK00750DOMR. The opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this podcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of Justice.